Commissioner. Hello, this is Dave, and for the next half hour, I'll be reading from the February 26th issue of the River Rock Times on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. This article is by Amber Healy. Driving through Black Rock this winter has meant a tale of two cities. Main streets like Amherst Street, Grant Street, Delaware Avenue, and Elmwood Avenue have been given prompt attention by the City of Buffalo road crews, working quickly to try and clean up snow and slushy conditions. It's been a hard winter, however, with snow sometimes falling for long stretches of time. For many who live in Black Rock and Riverside, it quickly became apparent that the side streets and residential streets didn't receive the same prompt attention as the major roadways. Nolan Skipper, the city's commissioner of the Department of Public Works, already has his eyes on making improvements to the city's approach to cleaning up the inevitable snowfall this winter. It's been a couple of months of craziness, and if you want to call it that, with the winter weather, and it's definitely interesting seeing it from the commissioner's perspective of how crews and our mechanics do their best to keep things running 24/7, says Skipper, who previously worked in the department's engineering division before being named commissioner under Mayor Sean Ryan. There's been a learning curve for sure, including the challenges of a city with many narrow residential streets, such as those in Black Rock and Riverside. With snow, they only get more narrow. It's definitely an interesting challenge from the mains all the way down to some of our one-way smaller streets, trying to get everything cleared. In general, larger primary streets and secondary routes are the top priority for Skipper's office when the flakes are flying. From a life and safety perspective, obviously, if you lose your mains and secondaries, the city kind of halts as a whole. Once the snow stops, our snow plan reads that we have a 24-hour window to essentially try to blanket the city with plow coverage once the snow has stopped for that time period. The goal is we want to hit every street with a plow when it's plowable. But what makes a street plowable isn't just the lack of new snowfall. It takes cooperation and awareness from the residents as well. A shared responsibility. Bush Street off Amherst Street and just to the west of Wegmans is a street in which the city's plow fleet might have some difficulties. It's a street that has posted alternate parking instructions, directing residents and visitors to park on the east side of the street on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., shifting to the west side of the street on Thursday and Friday during those hours. While most drivers did their best to follow those instructions, the street became narrower as the snow piled up, creating an obstacle course and conditions in which cars could easily become stuck. Additionally, those drivers who failed to move their cars on the designated day made it harder to pass down the street, as did using the former Restore parking lot as a cut-through from Wegmans. Skipper says that it's also possible that some snowplow drivers might miss a street here or there, and that if there's a delivery truck or illegally parked cars, there's definitely challenges. But our goal is that 24-hour window once the snow stops. Still, he wants to know if a street is still snow-covered 24 hours after a storm passes. If we miss a street because our driver missed it or a parked car forced us not to be able to get down it, that's where the 311 reports are helpful, he says. We use it like a heat map to see if multiple calls are coming in for a street. There usually is a reason we missed a street. In general, we have a plan for over the 24-hour stretch to hit every street in the city. When we use the 311 as, hey, a lot of calls come in on that street, did we miss something? And we'll go back and check it out. Files made through 311 are not directly under the management of Skipper's office. and are routed through a different department, but can be useful in identifying problematic areas in need of snow and salt service, he says. The frustration of people living on streets that don't receive immediate attention or are missed is something Skipper understands. It just takes one car not moved in that 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. window, and some of our snowplows pictures we've gotten from the season tell the whole story, just how big our plows are compared to the single car on the street, which makes it difficult to clean residential streets within that 24-hour window. There is a dedicated map at one of the city's DPW garages on Broadway, which is used to identify missed streets. It's unfortunate that if we hit a residential street in that 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. window and another few inches of snow falls in the day, the next shot at that window, there's just that much more snow on the ground. It's tough to get back sometimes because then people have even more of a challenge moving their cars. We're working toward a more proactive, collaborative approach. Based on the experiences and challenges this winter, Skipper already is looking ahead to next winter to make changes and improvements. I think our goal going into next season, I've already had coordination calls with the mayor and the parking commissioner, is to try and do more of an awareness campaign. Let's help each other. Let's have this be a team effort, but we're going to work to kind of beef up that awareness of the situation early in the season before the snow flies next year. There are a few possible approaches in mind, including going door to door with pamphlets reminding residents of the importance of moving their vehicles to the proper side of the street to accommodate plows. We've kicked around the option of having points of contacts for different block clubs and having people help us police the situation, because we all want the same end goal of life and safety. So let's work together on getting there. The last thing we need is neighbors pointing fingers at each other. If we can be proactive and help each other before the situation occurs, that's just great for everyone. Skipper did confirm that during the course of this winter so far, about half of the city's fleet of trucks used for plowing and salting the streets were taken offline for repair, with more repairs needed after the season ends. The ones where we can plow and throw salt are bigger trucks, and we were down to about 14 with that cold stretch for 3 to 4 weeks, going 24/7 in those types of conditions. Unfortunately, we lost some trucks during those 3 weeks, but they've since been repaired and are now operational if we need them again. The city also learned from last year's rock salt shortage and now has contracts with 2 suppliers to avoid running into that scarcity again. No matter how much more winter weather might be in store, Skipper says he appreciates the patience of residents who might have more snow on their street than anticipated, and asks people to continue calling 311 to file reports if their residential streets remain untouched more than 24 hours after snow stops falling, especially if it's been a more significant snowfall. Let's be more proactive has been a central theme of many conversations he's had lately with the mayor and other officials. Let's get the messaging out there. How can we work together with the residents to have them feel comfortable that if they move their cars, they comply with regulations, we will get down their street? That's the biggest thing, trusting each other that we will do our job. If you're able to move your cars, we'll be right behind it and do our job. That trust level is a big thing moving forward. We're going to be more proactive and have those conversations, work with block clubs, work with the council members to make sure we're connecting the right people so that we can see and have a real difference in the future. Miss Volkers, here's your chance to own a piece of local history. The corner where the former Volkers Lanes used to stand remains empty and covered in snow for now, but for those who are missing their old hangout on the corner of Amherst Street and Elmwood Avenue, Buffalo Reuse has a solution. When the structure was torn down last summer, the demolition company reached out to Buffalo Reuse about the lanes where countless games were played. The heavy wooden lanes needed somewhere to go, other than a few that were set aside for other purposes. We have quite a bit of them, said Michael Gaynor of Buffalo Reuse. The demolition contractor called us because they didn't want to throw them away. They loaded them up and brought a lot of them here to the store at 980 Northampton Street. While some of the lanes have water damage from a leak in the building, a good number of them are in fine condition and ready to have a second life in some other location. If they get a good sanding, they'll be totally fine, he says of the lane sections. They'll clean up beautifully. There are currently maybe 70 or 80 pieces of Volker's lanes available at Buffalo Reuse, sold at $10 per square feet, each measuring between 8 and 10 feet in length. Buffalo Club 49ers Easter egg hunt is set. President Joel Boone Jr. and the Buffalo Club 49ers announced that plans are well on their way for their 71st annual Easter egg hunt to be held in Riverside Park on Saturday, April 4th at noon. The egg hunt is held each year for the benefit of the children ages 2 through 12 living in the Riverside, Black Rock, and Grant Amherst communities. This event is supervised solely by the Club 49ers, who will absorb the majority of the expenses. However, this event would not be the success it is every year without the support of local businesses, organizations, and individuals. Boone said if anyone would like to make a donation towards this year's Easter egg hunt, they can send a donation to Buffalo Club 49ers, 144 Mayer Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14207. All donors will be listed in the River Rock Times at the conclusion of the egg hunt. Buffalo Briefs. The Council approves a resolution to establish full property tax exemption for certain veterans. The Buffalo Common Council voted unanimously on February 17th to approve a resolution that would provide full property tax exemption to certain veterans who have a 100% permanent and total disability relating to active military service. The resolution directs the city's corporation council to draft a local law opting into recently passed New York State legislation granting the tax exemption to disabled veterans who meet all four of the following criteria: a 100% disability rating with total permanent designation from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, have a total disability based on individual unemployability from the VA, qualify for the VA's specially adapted housing grant, have either an honorable discharge or a qualifying condition under New York State Veterans Services Law with an other than dishonorable or bad conduct discharge. Qualifying conditions include post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, and discharged LGBT veteran. The resolution comes just months after Governor Kathy Hochul signed a legislation authorizing local governments to opt into the tax exemption for disabled veterans. Fillmore District Council member Mitch Nowakowski introduced the resolution, joined by co-sponsors Lovejoy District Council member Brian Bowman and University District Councilman Rashid N.C. Wyatt, as a way to give back to service members who have suffered and sacrificed to defend our nation. As the son of a United States military veteran, I know firsthand that our veterans made extraordinary sacrifices in service to our country, said Council Member Bowman. This local law ensures that Buffalo honors our most severely disabled veterans by providing real financial relief that recognizes both their service and the profound challenges they continue to face For veterans who can no longer work and require specially adapted housing, property tax relief can make the difference between stability and hardship. The matter will return before the Common Council after Corporation Council drafts the local law. Upon its final approval, council members will clarify when the exemptions take effect and outline the actions that qualifying veterans must take in order to take advantage of the tax exemption. The Parking Authority is holding a meeting online. The City of Buffalo Parking Authority will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, that's today, at 1 p.m. in the Mayor's Conference Room on the second floor of City Hall, 65 Niagara Street. The meeting will also be streamed live online at the following link, https://teams.microsoft.com/me@274379380333189. The authority's webpage is https://www.buffalonewyorkny.gov. Zellner applauds $40 million for Buffalo. New York State Senator Jeremy Zellner issued a statement in response to Governor Kathy Hochul's announcement of $40 million in state funding to help Buffalo address its structural budget gap and stabilize the city's finances, it stated. In it, he stated, "I commend Governor Hochul for recognizing the urgency of Buffalo's fiscal situation and stepping up with this critical $40 million investment. This fund represents meaningful progress and demonstrates what is possible when state and local leaders work together with focus on urgency. I also want to acknowledge Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes for her continued leadership and steadfast commitment to protecting Buffalo residents while addressing these financial challenges." Journalism scholarships are available. Greater Buffalo area college students who are studying communications, along with professional journalists seeking additional academic training, can now apply for college and graduate school scholarships for the 2026-2027 academic year. Our fund has awarded more than $150,000 in scholarships to talented communication students who have attended about 30 different colleges and universities in the United States and Canada, said Chair Brian Meyer. Many of the recipients have forged successful careers in the communications industry. To be eligible, applicants must be residents of Western or Central New York, Northwestern Pennsylvania, or Southern Ontario, depending on accredited colleges in the U.S. or Canada that offer courses to enhance journalism training. Students who are residents outside of the charter area who attend colleges in Western New York are also eligible. Undergraduate students in any year of study, graduate students, and working journalists are encouraged to apply. Evidence of competence in writing, broadcasting, or related communication skills is especially desired. So in the explanation of financial need, applicants must include a brief statement outlining their motivation and offering evidence of commitment to a career in journalism. 2 letters of recommendation from an instructor or supervisor in the student's field of major interest must accompany the application. Check us out on the website www.facebook.com/SPJSCHOOL Scholarship Buffalo. For a digital application, email Anne Marie Franzik at amfranzik@verizon.net. Individuals wishing to receive an application by U.S. mail should send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Anne Marie Franzik, 858 Fillmore Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14212. For questions, please call Franzik at 716-239-5571. District D chief says that there is no ICE activity reported in Black Rock or Riverside. An interview with Chief Mordino, Part 2. Tensions have been high across the country for the past several weeks, hitting a fever pitch in Minneapolis and other cities in which Federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, officers have been dispatched to arrest and deport people in the United States illegally. Buffalo has long been a city where people from other countries have moved and made their homes. Black Rock and Riverside are among the communities in which the immigrant population is highest in Buffalo. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the River Rock Times on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Buffalo has long been a city where people from other countries have moved and made their homes. Black Rock and Riverside are among the communities in which the immigrant population is highest in Buffalo. D District Chief Christopher Mordino says despite what might be circulating on social media, his office has not yet received any calls or concern about ICE activity this year. Not that I know of, he says. Even if residents called with concern about unmarked black SUVs coming into their neighborhood, possibly transporting ICE officers, there's really not much we can do about that because there's a federal agency conducting their business. We have no right as the state. Local police officers like Chief Mordino and his team would not be notified in advance if a federal agency were to come to the district, nor would any notification be required or expected, he says. We have no right just to go up to them and say, "Stop doing what you're doing." Chief Mordino says he's aware of situations in which his officers have driven out to check on homes where people concerned about possible ICE activity have called police, assuming ICE activity was involved. Because an unmarked car was parked in front of a house and someone was being arrested, but that particular incident involved a U.S. Marshal task force from downtown Buffalo office. Somebody showed up there trying to disrupt and protest, not realizing it wasn't ICE. It was a U.S. Marshal's task force and Buffalo police officers arresting 2 people, he says. I feel like there are some situations where people are assuming just because someone is in an unmarked car that they're ICE. There's a lot of that going on. As of early February, however, Chief Mordino says he hasn't received any calls from residents concerned about ICE in which those agents were found to be making arrests under federal orders. My lieutenants haven't said anything to me about receiving calls like that. They would have, especially since it's such a hot topic right now. Chief Mordino says there are assumptions being made about the relationship between local police and ICE agents. We have no clue what they're doing, ever. They don't call us and say, "Hey, we're going to go over here and do this," he explains. In my 18 years as a police officer in the city of Buffalo, I've never gotten a phone call from ICE or any federal agency like that. Even when the FBI does search warrants, they don't tell us. We got called after they're executing the warrant to say, "Hey, can we have a marked car over here?" That's just how it always has been. I feel like a lot of people are worried about things, and they assume that we're working with those other agencies hand in hand, and that's never been the case. He adds the Buffalo Police Department does not have access to their systems. We can't look up their information. They don't call us for information, and we couldn't do it anyways because we can't give anybody information over the phone. The realistic part of it is we have no idea what they're doing ever. If we get called to a house, it's because somebody saw something. There's a 911 call about something, and we show up to that call. We're investigating like any other call. If D District or other officers did arrive at a home or other location to respond to a 911 call on the suspicion of ICE activity, they have to follow a chain of command in order to clear their actions before they can move forward, including talking to the lieutenant, watch commander, and police commissioner. They have to make sure they know what's going on before they do anything and make a decision. That takes some time. Anything can be misconstrued as, oh, they're working with them. Especially these days, we have some really specific policies, and our administration is very focused on making sure officers follow policy and go through their chain of command, Chief Mordano says. Police have to be around at protests for public safety on all sides. His officers have been requested to help provide a police presence at protests downtown in recent months, as other chiefs will sometimes call to request additional officers or just to notify other chiefs that there will be a large number of people gathering in one location. We're just going to be around just in case anything happens or in case we're needed. We're not trying to. There's no reason for us to just be posted at some of these places unless there's something going on that we need to be. A lot of that's just for awareness and safety. What if somebody shows up there and something bad happens? We've got to be around. The purpose or theme of the protest has been the case near City Hall and other downtown locations in recent months. Does not influence whether officers are called to be present. It's just a safety concern for those people in general. That's something that a lot of people will probably not understand or just assume that people are like harassing them just by being present or by being around. But realistically, every time I go to something with my daughter or to a sporting event, school stuff, I'm hyper vigilant in situations where there is a lot of people just because it's my job and my nature. He understands that some people might equate a police presence at a protest as a kind of harassment or intimidation factor, but the realistic aspect of it is we're here because if something happens, you're going to be calling us immediately. We might as well be around. We don't need to be breathing down your neck. We want to be around, just as there are more police officers around sporting events to be watchful of people driving intoxicated or other unlawful activities. After 18 years in law enforcement, Chief Mordano says nothing surprises him anymore. If somebody wants to be mad that we're driving around, I know what I have to do and I know what my people need to do. If someone wants to be mad about that, that's the cost of doing business. I'm still going to sleep good at night. I'd rather be safe than sorry. But we're not looking just to be posted at protests. It's people's right. We're here to do a job. Quinn Minute, Wild Animals as Pets, by Rick Quinn. Many towns now prohibit citizens from housing jungle animals. What exactly is a wild pet? I once had a very friendly dog who could imitate other animals, like a cat and a rooster. Does that qualify? For instance, some communities term boa constrictors wild. In others, they're considered non-poisonous reptiles with a lethal hug. That reminds me of my great-aunt who visited us on holidays. Coyotes, wolves, and hyenas are also wild, even though they disguise themselves as lovable, giant-fanged dogs. My neighbor Charlie once owned a wolf, and it ate 4 parakeets and 2 of Charlie's toes before he wised up and sold it to the sister he never liked. Extremely large animals like elephants or rhinos don't fit well in backyards. Also, walking an elephant is awkward, and cleaning up after it might require that pet owner to pull a wagon, too. How about chickens? One community outlawed them, even though few are aggressive and most are toothless. They were banned for not for aggression, but for crowing. No city person wants to hear anybody mouth off at dawn, especially a bird brain. Maybe that's why they forced my friend Dave out of town. Bottom line, if you want to view carnivorous animals,